Hi, this is Les Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. Just when many of us were adjusting to baseball, 17 of the Miami Marlins players and staffs showed up positive, and their games have been canceled now by the commissioner until at least Sunday. Hopefully Rob Manfred will let them play after that. We're already seeing a better brand of baseball than many of us expected. Bud Shaw is here tonight. More Sports and Les Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les Levine on a Tuesday night, that means Bud Shaw is here. More Sports and Les Levine seen exclusively on Cleveland.com. Bud, do you agree with me that we're seeing better baseball than we might have expected at the 4 or 5 game mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we may also be seeing the pitchers being way ahead of the hitters, right? It seems like every game the Indians have had have been at least 8, 9, 10, 14 strikeouts. It almost feels less like it could be one of those seasons where the Indians start out 13-2 and that have the best record in baseball right before the commissioner announces that the season's canceled.
Well, you know that's going to happen. Why don't we just mark down today, this is the beginning of the end?
Yeah, we all knew that there were risks involved, and it was gonna be tough to keep players healthy. There's one way to do it that the NBA is trying with the bubble. Anything short of that is going to invite some kind of health risk. Whenever you have to travel in and out of other cities, the way baseball teams are doing right now, and the way the NFL will be doing, it's going to be harder to keep these guys healthy.
So a health threat, would that be something that Lou Williams got involved in?
Yeah, I think that was a totally different thing.
Oh. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Plenty of stuff going on, but we go for so long with nothing happening. Now all of a sudden we're ready. It looks like football is going to open up on time, at least the training camps, unless you've heard something different.
No, I haven't heard anything different, but the news today is not real promising when you see the number of players that are opting out for health reasons. Some of them have newborns, some of them are caring for aging parents and relatives who have diabetes. The New England Patriots have lost a couple starters today. So I think, Les, when we went back to talking about David Njoku and what the Browns should do with him, I mean, my point was nothing, because we don't know what kind of attrition is going to happen with these teams just being COVID related, let alone actual physical injuries. So, if Austin Hooper or someone else on this team comes down with the virus or decides that the risk is too great and opts out, then you need as much talent as you can possibly have on these rosters.
What do you think that was all about, with so many players opting out, that they just wanted to play, get the money in, and worry about it later, and apparently later is now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way it's set up in the NFL, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, is if players opt out by qualifying as at risk, and I'm not sure what that determination is. It could be family situation with newborns or sick family members at home. They're guaranteed a certain salary. I think it might be like $350,000. If they opt out without being considered at risk, then I think it drops down to somewhere around $150,000.
All right, we're going to see how our baseball fandom is doing. It's time for the 7th inning stretch over at Progressive Field. So if you want to stretch, be my guest. Right now, the Indians leading the Chicago White Sox by a score of 4-2. That's in the bottom of the 7th. And I was glad to see they were using John Adams' drum over the weekend. Indians now leading a 2-run homer by Francisco Lindor. Then Zimmer with a solo shot, and Savali goes 4 strong innings. So right now the Indians starting pitching are 6 strong innings. So right now the Indians pitching going as well as you could expect. There's no question about that. But I made a statement the other night or the other day that I believe the Indians have one of the top three major starting rotations in the major leagues. But I think the way this year is going to play out with 60 games, it may be the bullpen that becomes more important than what you have in the starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, we know as a group, it's a pretty talented group of starters, but they're all going to be limited to a certain number of starts. And early in the season, I don't think you're going to see guys going, 8, 9 innings, even if they're cruising. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the bullpen is going to come in and play a really big role. And I know going into this, we didn't have a lot to go off of because we didn't see this team in spring training. We didn't see them play a lot of games, but the bullpen didn't seem to be one of their strengths. And maybe it'll turn. You know how bullpens are, Les.
Yeah.
I mean, some
you
years
you don't find them for a while.
Yeah, some years you expect them to be volatile, and then other years you expect them to be great, and often the opposite happens in both cases.
Yeah, you alluded to it, but I don't think it can be blamed on the virus. But you see what happened to Corey Kluber. That looks like just an early baseball injury in the season, and then you have other injuries that have come up, and some of them are denying how bad they are, but. Verlander is one of them, but
Verlander was out.
Yeah, so you wonder. I don't think it's directly because of the COVID-19. I just think maybe they didn't get enough stretching out in regular spring training.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the overarching theme. And when we look back at this season, I think we're going to see more of those kinds of injuries where guys that just were out of their normal element, out of their normal routine. Now, was Kluber already injured from a few years ago? Who knows? He seemed to have a couple of good outings early this year when they were having their version of spring training, the kind of stuff that you remembered from him when he was at his best here. So maybe this was just something that happened, was freak and came up. But yeah, I think it's certainly a danger.
What's good about the way that it's playing out right now? There's nothing really good, but sort of good. And that is you get to see the teams that you hate, you get to watch them lose. The Dodgers, there's nothing wrong with a Dodger loss. There really isn't.
and especially knowing that every loss by a team that you hate is worth like 2.6 losses in normal time.
Do you find things hard to believe, like that the Dodgers haven't been to the World Series since the Kirk Gibson year? Doesn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right.
I turned on MLB the other day, and they just threw it out there. They said so and so is picking a team that hasn't won since '87, and I was thinking, well, who is that? Who could that possibly be? And then I realized that's who they were talking about. Yeah, with that payroll and no one would ever think that they could go 23 years without a series.
By the way, MLB Network should have or Major League Baseball or somebody should have forced younger kids. When I say younger kids, I'm talking in their 20s, early 30s. Forced them to watch some of the stuff that was played during the off season to give you a sense of baseball history. There were some things that a lot of it had to do with the years not computing in my head very well. But there was just unbelievable highlights and situations that took place, and I thought they did a nice job with it. They had enough time to work it out also.
Yeah, I remember a number of years ago when Fox threatened to fire any of its announcers who mentioned any dead players. I think that's the problem. They think they have to cater to the younger generation and get them enthused about baseball all over again without referencing the great history of the game. And that's, I think, a mistake.
No question about it. 216-575-0403. Bud Shaw is with us tomorrow night. The D-Man, Dennis Maniloff, Mary Kay Cabot will be here on Thursday. We'll take a break. We've got all kinds of stuff to go through. Did you know that the Ohio Lottery has paid out over $1 billion in winnings over the past 6 months? People are winning in record numbers, and winning is happening as you go around the state. Play an Ohio Lottery game and play it today. We'll come back in a moment. More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on Cleveland.com.
Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art BetAmerica kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had 2 choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine. I am Les Levine. Bud Shaw is with us. Lots to talk about. A lot of activity in baseball, both on the field and off. Let's go to the timeline, mostly involving the Miami Marlins. It starts with the COVID-19, and on the 24th of July, there are some positive tests that are showing up, mostly down in Florida, and the Marlins players still want to play the game. 3 additional players did prove positive. Then on the 27th, another round, 14 players, members become positive, and the game against the Baltimore Orioles is canceled, and the Marlins quarantine in their game against Philadelphia. On Tuesday, the 24th, 4 additional players proved positive. A player is also test negative, so that's good news at least. Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, says, well, we want to make sure that the players do not get exposed. It's a positive thing, but I don't see it as a nightmare situation. It's not a positive thing again, but we built the protocols to get the exposure, and that's why we've added players and have pools of players, additional players, ready to go. A team losing a number of players rendered it completely non-competitive would be an issue. We don't want that to happen. We have to address that, and we have to think about making a change, whether it's shutting down a certain part of the season, the whole season. That depends on the circumstances, of course, and when you get to a certain point league-wide, when does it become a threat? And certainly we would shut it down at that point. So that's Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball. Hey, Bud, Manfred is not the most popular guy in the baseball world, at least maybe he is with the owners, but not the players and certainly not the fans. But he's in a tough situation here. This is not something you have a guidebook how to handle it.
Yeah, the thing is, Les, I believe the Marlins players were given the option, and I guess you have to do it that way, but I'm not convinced. It feels to me like back in the NFL when they used to, ask a a concussed player how many fingers he saw, and if he answered correctly, they said, "You want to go back in?" Of course they do. They all say they do. I don't know what you do, but maybe you use an independent medical person to make decisions.
We always
I
thought,
get
we always thought they had
get
that. I always thought they had that in the football teams.
They do now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm saying back in the old days they didn't. I don't know. I get Manfred's point. I mean, they did expand the rosters for this very reason. You would just hate to see anybody get really ill and hospitalized from something like this. And I think maybe if that happens, they're going to have to review whether they want to even try to have this season.
I'm going back and forth on this thing. When I watch the games, I enjoy them immensely. And then I see what happens and the guys opting out and all that stuff. It is tough, and I just, you'd hate to see it just for the money here, and things go really bad. But I guess you have no choice.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll start out this way, and I think the concerning thing was that we were 3 games into the season before they had to postpone a game.
Right.
I don't think when they expanded the rosters for these teams and tried to keep everyone safe with protocols that they expected to be dealing with this 3 games into the season.
Let's talk about the games themselves. The Indians, of course, got out to a good start considering it was Kansas City. Could have been better. Terry Francona came under a little heat. I didn't have a problem with what he did in the bunt situation. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, it's new. It's a new thing, and we know fans are going to second. That new rule is rife for second guessing, right? It's going to be, what do you do with that runner on second? If you have a hitter up who isn't good at bunting, do you pinch hit for him? I mean, it's a tough thing. It's a tough call to make, to give up an out by pinch hitting for a guy that you don't think can lay down a bunt.
And then you're giving up guys,
yeah.
several guys, for that one
Yeah,
situation.
it's a tough call, and I think the managers are going to feel their way through this.
But I've been saying this for 100 years or so, and that is when a manager comes under criticism for not bunting or bunting, the assumption is that every guy in the major leagues is a good bunter, and that's a bad assumption because they're not.
Yeah, I think we all harken back to our Little League days when we all practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. And let's face it, the pitchers we were facing weren't too difficult to lay down a bunt against. I don't think it's as easy as a lot of people think it is when guys are throwing, 94-mile-an-hour cutters.
Yeah, the assumption is they can bunt them, but the reality is most of them can't. By the way, speaking of years going by and all that stuff, what year are we in? 2020? How many times have you asked what year we're in?
I ask it on a daily basis almost, yeah.
Or a yearly basis?
What day is it? What week is it? What year is it?
Well,
I've been good about pinning down the months.
Yeah. Now, you're a good friend of Steve Stone, former Cy Young Award winner from 1980. This is 50 years since he won the Cy Young. How's that possible?
I don't know. How does that make you feel as a former high school teammate?
Makes me feel at least 50. That's
it's
unbelievable to me, how time goes by, and what a year he had. 25, I think he was 25 and 8. It's pretty good. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. We're going to come back. We'll talk more. We're going to bring it over to football for a bit because the national guys still shouting praises about the Cleveland Browns. You got 4 locations for Northeast Factory Direct: West 140th Street, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, and of course Freeway Drive. That's in Macedonia. But before you go anywhere, go to the website, and that of course is northeastfactorydirect.com. We'll come back in a moment. Bud Shaw with us. More sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on Cleveland.com.
Wow! Get Nature Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Act now for huge summer savings on our exclusive Nature's Blend Stone, as low as $2.99 a square foot plus installation. Only Nature Stone eliminates cracked, uneven concrete, and Nature Stone never peels like cheap paints and coatings. Safe, beautiful garage flooring that's always backed by Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor,
Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine. Bud Shaw is with us. We're lots to talk about baseball and football. Let's take a look what ESPN and their staff thinks about who made the best off-season moves this year. And a lot of people will say, well, the Browns did. All they had to do was get rid of Freddie Kitchens. For the second straight year, it looks like the national media thinks the Browns have won the off-season. ESPN staff rated the team and what they did with their offensive moves. They've got the Dolphins number 1, then it's the Bengals number 2. Joe Burrow, of course, most of the reason for that. Tampa Bay Buccaneers add some kind of quarterback. I think he had a pretty good year, Tom Brady. So they are 3rd. Then the Colts are 4th, and the Browns are 5th. Dan Graziano of ESPN goes on to say that the Browns entered the offseason, and they needed to get better in a couple of key areas. The coaching staff, and as well as getting rid of Freddie Kitchen, obviously, made it all the way home from the season finale. And let's hope that Kevin Stefanski can bring some calm to the proceedings. And we'll see if that. The problem with that is he won't even know more than half of his team before the practices begin. Big free agent bucks were spent on Jack Conklin and a top 10 pick on Jedrick Wills. And should solve the problem that they have on the offensive line. Oh, and by the way, Cleveland added another passing target for Baker Mayfield, and that's Austin Hooper, who was the top tight end in free agency. No more excuses in Cleveland. And that seems to be the way most of the NFL media, national media, is thinking about the Cleveland Browns. The situation with the Bengals, I'm not sure why they've got them so high, but they do. Obviously, the change in the quarterback is big, but I'm not sure they did enough to add 3 or 4 spots in that. But we'll wait and see on that. And the Browns, of course, will be taking on the Bengals quite early in the season. So there you have it. But have you noticed that there seems to be a national media holding hands, although you can't do it at this point, but it seems to me they're getting very positive responses nationally for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think this is the second year in a row for that, Les. I mean, I think last year there were similar feelings. It was, the excitement of the Odell Beckham Jr. trade was a big part of it, but it was also, knowing they had Nick Chubb and had signed Kareem Hunt, and we knew he wasn't going to be available to them right away, but remember all the talk about what fresh legs might mean to a championship run or a division-winning run if he came in week 9 or whatever. So I think there was a lot of faith in what was happening here last year too. I happen to believe that Stefanski is a better bet than Freddie, but until he shows that on Sunday afternoons, it's all just talk.
Yeah, so far Freddie's won 6 more games than Stefanski.
Exactly. So, we think that being better organized and having more experience as an offensive play caller, and Stefanski certainly has that. I mean, Freddie had a little bit of experience as an offensive play caller, and based on that, they decided to make him a head coach. Whereas Stefanski, I think, was we know he was the choice of Paul DePodesta for other reasons, for 2 years running. he saw a head coach there. He wasn't looking at him as a good play caller, and that's why he wanted to hire Stefanski a year earlier. He saw a good head coach. So we'll see.
When you take a look at Stefanski, and we haven't seen him. We've seen him in press conferences, we've seen him in the Zoom meetings and all that, but we don't know how he's going to call plays or anything like that. And the question I've had is, do you think that he was ready to have somebody else call the plays, but now that the situation here has pushed it back so much that he's probably taking it over, or do you think that was the original plan?
I mean, it felt to me like the original plan. Let me back up there. I think when he was hired, he was not wed to the idea that he had to call the plays. But I think when he got Alex Van Pelt and he felt like he had more experience calling the plays than the guy he ended up hiring for that, I think that's when he decided that it would be better for him to call him. But I also believe that he's a guy that if he sees what he wants to see out of the offense early, and they're not struggling as so many Browns teams have done early in the year, he may turn that over. It may be something that we don't know about, right when it happens. But I have a feeling that he's not, wed to the idea that he has to be the play caller. All these coaches, Les, have felt like they've been under the gun, right? Hugh Jackson, Freddie Kitchens, and they felt like, well, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down, call my own plays. And I'm not saying that was the right thing to do, because clearly they were both overmatched in some ways as a head coach. And maybe Stefanski is smarter than those two guys.
Well, I'll go back to what I said earlier when I said that I think that Stefanski has more staying power or a better situation here, job security-wise, because I just can't imagine if he comes in based on everything that's happened and he loses some games early on, I can't imagine that the front office, while they'll be very disappointed because they'll expect to win, I just can't imagine Jimmy Haslam and Dee Haslam going to meet with each other after a Sunday night loss and just say, we can't do this. We can't go through this again. I just can't imagine them doing it.
No, because I think they were all behind this move. I think Andrew Berry liked the move. I think obviously DePodesta did. Whereas a year ago, can you imagine what DePodesta was thinking after recommending Stefanski and having them hire Freddie Kitchens over him, when he saw Freddie in the Pittsburgh Started It shirt, when he heard Freddie, refuse to even entertain the idea that Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. weren't hitting it off on the field. There were a lot of things that seemed to call for a head coach to take control of that locker room a little bit more last year. And I don't think Freddie came close to doing that. And I'm sure DePodesta was sitting there thinking, whether he was saying it to Haslam on a weekly basis or not, he had to be sitting there thinking, they should have listened to me.
Yeah.
Well, now they have.
Well, when you said at the beginning of what you're talking about, and you're saying, was I surprised by it? I was totally surprised by it. I can't imagine that DePodesta was still here based on what you just said, unless he got a promise right then and there from Jimmy Haslam about the upcoming season.
It sure seemed like he did, and I know some people don't like the fact that he wasn't here on a daily basis, that he was in California. But Haslam has never let on that has been an issue at all with him. So
actually, I think he's been here more than most people thought.
Yeah, probably. We know he's definitely in every, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then maybe he goes back to be with his family and comes back again on late Friday night or Saturday for another game. But yeah, would you like him to be here all the time? Sure, but that's not the way it was going to be when he signed up.
But we've talked about this before. In fact, we talked about it lots. When you first came here, and Tony Grossi and you talked about the Cleveland Browns and the Cleveland Browns fans, and I'll give you an example of what I think you're talking about. With Carlos Carrasco the other day pitching Game 3 of the series against the Royals, and he gets a tweet after direct from Bernie Kosar, and congratulating him on the game and all. And I think that, people sometimes think Bernie is way too old-fashioned, but I think something like that shows you why Bernie Kosar is so beloved here in town.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. You love when your teams are intermeshed with each other in some way. Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City has just become a part, I'm sure, a very small minority owner of the Kansas City Royals, right? So that kind of stuff shows support for each other, and I think fans love that.
Well, if you find out that they sign his father, a former major league pitcher, and they sign him to start next opening day, you'll know how much influence that Patrick has.
He certainly has enough money. We know that.
Yeah, I suppose. And the Kansas City Royals team looks exactly like they've looked the last 15 years. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, it seems that everybody in the division, everybody who watches the division, and it's not a great division, let's face it.
Right.
But I think the team that people think has a chance of really surprising are the White Sox, and we'll see. I think that's a lot to ask of a young roster when you haven't had a real spring training.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Bud Shaw with us. Tomorrow night, Dennis Maniloff, and then on Thursday, it'll be Mary Kay Cabot. Looking forward to that. And we'll finally hopefully get the Browns training camp open on time. I'm not sure how many people would have believed that was going to happen. To give the NFL credit, they've gotten this close and sort of hard-headed about it. They weren't looking to just show up and begin practice in a willy-nilly way. They actually came out and said, no, that's our date to report, and that's what we're going to do. Now, still have a few days and still have a few question marks about what's going to happen, but you got to give them credit. But I wasn't aware of what you said about with some of the players opting out, but apparently some have.
Yeah, and I would expect that's going to happen in round two. And I hope fans aren't critical of the guys who make that.
216-575-0403. I know Bud Shaw, my friend, has joined up on our Pals in Motion walkathon. We're going to we're going to raise some money for Parkinson's disease. All you have to do is go to the website events.beinmotion.org, find out information. The name of my team is Moving More with Less, and if you can join up right there through that team name, you'll help us out quite a bit. And In Motion is the place where the money goes, and they do a phenomenal job with patients, with families, with caretakers, and I'm a part of it, and hopefully you'll join us also. It's Sunday, September 13th. It's not a football weekend. The Browns playing the Ravens that night, and we'd like you to join us and be part of the In Motion virtual walkathon coming up on the 13th of September. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Tri-C is the place to go. Tri-C ranks 10th in the nation in conferring associate degrees in health and professions and related sciences. Go to tri-c.edu for more information. We'll come back in a moment. Bud Shaw with us. More sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on Cleveland.com.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week. And it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smileyone.com.
Welcome back. More sports and Les Levine. Bud Shaw with us on a Tuesday night, and getting ready for football. It looks like it's here. We'll find out real soon about that. And of course, the Browns are the fancy media take by the national observers, and we'll see if that's true also. One who doesn't totally agree about that is ESPN's Jake Trotter, who used to cover the Browns. Jake Trotter doesn't necessarily agree with the fact that Stefanski is really safe, but he does think that they should be well improved. There's no question that the virus has put the Browns at a disadvantage, and we'll see what happens when Stefanski gets a hold of his team. This team is too talented and too invested to not show up and break their playoff drought, which stands at 18 years right now. Stefanski and his team ready to go. The way he handled the team in Minnesota is how they'd like to see him do it here. But the true test is going to come early, and anything less than coaching Cleveland to the playoffs is going to be considered a disappointment by the Browns and their fans. There you have it. What do you think about that, Bud? You agree, disagree?
Yeah, it'll be considered a disappointment, but it won't be considered a fireable disappointment.
No,
that's my belief.
But they're adding more playoff teams, right? Or do I have the wrong sport here?
No, I think every sport is. It feels like.
Except
the NBA, they don't want the Cavs involved in anything.
Yeah, they're just trying to get rid of 2 spots in the playoffs. Hey, but before we continue on football, I want to jump back. Did you hear a sigh of relief during that break?
No, I didn't. Was that you?
No, it was Terry Francona who said, this thing might work. Indians are leading 4-2, bottom of the 8th inning. So Whitgren came in to start the 8th, and he puts himself in a situation because he has to continue to face hitters till he gets past 3. So he loads the bases, not on purpose, I might add. And then it's the bases loaded, Indians still up by 2, and then Whitgren tries to get out of it and does. So that sigh of relief was Terry Francona saying, "Oh, you mean you don't have to change pitchers every second and a half?"
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's going to be another thing that these guys have to juggle, right? It's going to, I'm not sure I like that idea. I don't know that save, what does it do? Does it save a lot of time?
That's what I asked. I think what I can go along with, if they meant it this way, is that you don't waste the arms of the pitchers too often. You don't make as many quick trips to the mound. They'd have to almost forcibly get a couple of games in a row where they don't pitch. The problem is if one guy gets hurt and you send him down to the minors or whatever they're designating it as, then you're bringing in a pitcher who doesn't know, who hasn't been there before, and that might be a problem for him. But I think at least Francona, will work through it. But I don't think he likes it. I don't mind it as much. I don't mind it nearly as much as I mind. That's not even a nice word. The extra innings thing. I don't even want to think about what the reason for that is.
It just feels gimmicky, I understand. You mean putting the runner on second base?
You put a runner on second base, and then you try the bunt. You try to do what Kansas City did and did well, but then the Indians try it, and it doesn't work. Now you're almost to the bottom of your roster. And I said it earlier. We assume these guys, because they're in the majors, we assume they know how to bunt, but they really, not all of them do. And part of that reason is because every player that you see out there, Bud, is the best player that ever played in the neighborhood or at the school or at the state maybe, and they probably never had to bunt in a game.
Yeah, that's probably true. You know, I don't love it, but I think that if you're going to try it for a year, this is certainly a year to do it. You know, it's already, here we go, Les, drum roll, a truncated season. I know
There you go.
love
We
that
almost
word.
went the whole night
We
without
don't
saying
like to
truncated.
go without saying truncated. So
We're going to make that the
it's
word of the
already-
day.
it's already an odd season, and I could see where they would like to experiment with something like this to keep people's excitement level or interest level up.
Do you see, if the Indians can continue what they're starting to do, at least at this point, do you see the fans really getting involved in it, or do you think it's more the fans thinking, oh, we're not going to have Francisco Lindor anymore after this year? Do you
Yeah,
think,
well, I played in the Austin Carr golf outing yesterday, and the group of guys I was playing with were, you know, of that opinion that not signing Lindor is different to them than not signing some of the other players that have been in this town. They think he's a generational talent and a guy, not only just a generational talent, but just sort of a beacon for baseball in this city. And they some of them don't feel like they can get invested in what's going on right now, probably because what's going on is so strange to begin with.
Bizarre.
Yeah, bizarre is a good word. But partly because they see him leaving at, you know, the trade deadline or certainly at the end of this season. So, listen, my point was that this would be the case if Lindor was in a lot of other cities, and I know people don't like to hear that because they want to make it specific to this ownership. But certainly with the revenue deficit that all of these organizations are going to be dealing with, it's going to be even harder to justify, I think, trying to spend $400 million or wanting to spend $400 million on a guy.
Yeah, it's so hard to believe that somebody would call the Dolan ownership cheap because they wouldn't come up with $400 million. I mean.
Yeah, and that was something that I said yesterday when we were talking about it, and one of the guys did allow that. You know, when's the last time you signed one of these guys, any player signed for 8-10 years, and it worked out for 8-10 years? No. It just doesn't. Certainly doesn't.
I can't think of anyone that's made it through the full 8 or 10 years.
With Pujols, I mean, maybe it would with Mike Trout. I don't know. I mean, that's yet to be seen. But
is it possible for you to go anywhere, let's say like a golf outing or dinner or whatever, where people don't come up to you and talk sports and just dominate the conversation?
No, and I really kind of like it because it gives me a real sense of where people, you know, where their heads are about these teams. I mean, I think it's easy from a media standpoint to maybe get critical of something because of a certain owner or because of the history of failure in the organization. And it helps sometimes to hear. Sometimes I find out that these guys are even more critical than some of the media people are, but it's always interesting. And you know, in the case of yesterday, people wanted to talk about the Indians and they wanted to talk about the Browns, and nobody has anything to even talk about with the Cavs. And maybe that's understandable. But one of the guys asked me who would win the next championship in this town, Indians or Browns. And I said, "You're ruling out the Cavs?" And he just started laughing. So I think that's where we know where their heads are at when it comes to that team.
Let's take a final break, and then we'll come back. You can get to us on the Voice of Truth and Reason, a voicemail of Truth and Reason, and of course you can let us know anytime. We do the show from 6 until 7 p.m. Eastern Time, but you can call anytime at that number, 216-200-6650. Leave us a message and we'll play it on the air. In the meantime, we'll come back in a moment with Bud Shaw one more time. More sports and Les Levine exclusively on Cleveland.com.
Flooring again. Act now for huge summer savings on our exclusive Nature's Pearl Stone, as low as $2.99 a square foot plus installation. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today. It's not just a floor.
Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art BetAmerica kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Just a couple of Facebook entries to get to tonight. As training camp opens, what NFL free agent would you like to see the Browns sign? Ted Moon, our good friend from North Carolina, says, is he North Carolina or South Carolina? Well, one of the Carolinas. Les and Bud, based on what's out there, I'd hold firm and see what happens after the training camp cuts. Stay well, gentlemen. Lee Sutley says none, especially Clowney. We had Clowney on the radar for a long, long time. You glad we didn't? The Browns did not get him?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think he's the right attitude player for the amount of money that he would command. And you already have strength at that pass rushing spot.
Fair enough. 216-575-0403. We'll check out whatever's left over, whether it's quickies or comments. We'll do that when we get back with Bud Shaw exclusively on Cleveland.com.
Replace your basement flooring again. Act now for huge summer savings on our exclusive Nature's Pearl Stone, as low as $2.99 a square foot plus installation. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today. It's not just a floor.
Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art BetAmerica kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Welcome back. Hey, Bud, earlier I had mentioned Steve Stone's record. I might have missed it by one win. He was 25-7 in 1980. And, you know, he was drafted by the San Francisco Giants. Could you imagine he looks around and he says, all right, let's see my brush high outfield. We got, there's Levine over there. There's Simerson. Johnny Cohout's playing first. And all he's got is he's got Willie Mays in center field. He's got McCovey. He's got Bobby Bonds. His pitching staff, he's the third pitcher with Gaylord Perry and Juan Marichal. Could you just imagine that?
So you think the talent around him was a little better than when you were there?
Oh yeah. He wasn't as good. He never went 25-7 in high school, for goodness sakes. 25-7. Yeah, that's pretty good. How about he goes to sign a free agent contract with the White Sox with the Orioles. And they're talking over terms and all that stuff, and he's just happy to be there. And then he says at the end of the negotiations, he says, I think it was Bill Veeck with the White Sox, and he says, okay, I'd like $50,000 if I win the Cy Young Award. They said 50. We'll give you 100.
Like that'll never happen. We'll give you
No,
100.
we'll give you $12 billion. What do I care? All right. What's on tap sports-wise for you this weekend?
You know, I'm a big golf fan, so I've been watching the PGA Tour since it's come back. I think I mentioned earlier that I may feel this way about baseball eventually, but I don't right now. It still seems dystopian to me to see nobody in the seats. I haven't given that a second thought on the PGA Tour. It doesn't bother me that there isn't a gallery, and the quality of play seems to be about the same.
Well,
and,
you're used to playing golf without a gallery as
I'm
an amateur
playing
player.
golf with nobody watching. Yeah, so maybe that's it. But maybe I'll feel that way about baseball eventually. But it just still seems very, very odd to me.
I only saw the one full game on the Indians this weekend, and I'm glad to see that John Adams is featured with his with the drum, and apparently some of the Indians players had asked for it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the thing about the Marlins situation early in the season. You know, I'm not so sure it's the season itself is in danger of being shut down, but I wonder if some teams had plans at some point and were moving in that direction of including fans in the sport this season, and then maybe that will give them a little more pause. That if these guys who are trying to follow protocol or are being tested often are coming down with infections, that maybe it's the idea of bringing any fans into the ballparks or stadiums this year is not going to be the best idea.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, great job by Bud Shaw as always. Bud, we'll see you next Tuesday night. Okay?
Yeah, and here, Les.
What do you got?
That's for the How Come Quickie I never got, but that's what I would have given it tonight. If there had been How Come Quickies, I would have given it a 4.0.
Oh, all right. So Mr. Gullible's not upset about not being part of that.
No, don't tell Mr. Gullible. I didn't mean that about you, sir.
They're called
about others.
They're called quickies. Thanks to the great Bud Shaw. We appreciate it as always very much here on More Sports and Les Levine. We'll see you tomorrow night. Dennis Maniloff with us. Mary Kay Cabot on Thursday. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.